now, let me call upon Team Nielsen IQ and Amazon for their research paper. How long will you throw the baby with the bathwater?
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Sumit. I'm from Amazon, and that's Sunila from Nielsen. Very happy to be presenting to you today. The title of our paper is, of course, a rhetorical. Point we're trying to make is why waste when you can use. We heard a lot about what COVID did, what happened during COVID, but really, from a business perspective, it's what happened after COVID is a little more complicated. The last 1 year, we have seen so many macro headwinds across so many businesses, and a lot of companies are actually resetting right now. There is reprioritization happening across investments on product, distribution, promo dollars, and marketing. And usually, when businesses go through this cycle, you all know marketing spends are the first ones to come under the bus. And then, for a marketing head or a brand head, what you're really grappling with is how do I create impact out of my work? And then, for every dollar you invest, even a 5-10% incremental value that you can drive is so important. And then, in context of research, then you wonder, can advertising research help stretch our advertising budgets? Answer to that is yes, if research can tangibly help make our creatives more hardworking. But if you think about how we test creatives today, where we are actually going and asking consumers, "Kaisa laga, acha laga, kya acha nahi laga," those questions. Is the ad agency that we are working with really getting those tangible inputs to make that creative work a lot harder? Are we really building foundational understanding about how humans process advertising and fundamentally improve our process of making ads? Before we get into solutioning, just two quick points I want to call out about how, in the world of advertising and ad testing, first one is we have a middle problem. Now, trust me, like as marketeers, none of us set out to make bad ads, right? We all go through our journey of figuring out the insight, an idea, a concept, a script, and then the film. It takes a lot of work, but what happens is through that journey, sometimes things slip. And as a result, what happens is you get a bunch of ads that are sitting right in the middle. They're really not top notch, but they're not very poor. And you don't know what to do with these ads. Like, should you spend good media dollars behind ads that are mediocre? Or should you pull back and cut your losses? But trust me, like on the marketing side, you can't cut your losses and pull out an ad because it takes a lot of money and time to make an ad. The second problem is what we call the post facto problem. Now, by the nature in which we are collecting data or running ad tests, we are we are capturing data on memory of the ad, right? You show the film and then you ask questions. You're not capturing data real time. First of all, the response is to the memory of the ad and not the ad itself. And the second thing is we are asking rational responses to something that's processed very, very subconsciously, right? Like we heard a great talk about how very fine cues work in building brand in the previous paper. Now, as a result of this, what we get in any ad testing report is a bunch of brilliant scores and scorecards. But if you really look at what are the tangible improvement areas you identify from a typical ad testing study, you will struggle at the end of a conversation after going through a presentation. And that begs the question that is there an approach whereby we can understand how our advertising is being perceived by customers in the real time, something that dips into the 90% non-conscious response versus the 10% conscious responses that we're collecting today. And that's where Sunila comes in with neuroscience.
Yes, and indeed we can do that. We can measure the responses of a consumer while she's watching her ad. And you can see here on the left-hand side. And how do we do this? We use neuroscience. And in Bayesi's neuro, we use EEG, that's electroencephalogram. Like you have ECG for the heart, you have EEG for brain waves. So you'll see here the EEG cap, it has 32 sensors. We make sure that all parts of the brain are covered, ensuring holistic measurement. We don't stop there. We tap into the non-conscious using this, but we blend this with eye tracking. And when you blend EEG with eye tracking, it's a very potent combination because the brain is telling you, okay, at second one, I like this, I don't like it. And through the eye tracking, we're able to see what exactly those elements are that are engaging or not. Why maiden voyage? Certainly, neuroscience has been around for a long time, and consumer neuroscience almost for a decade. But you will see that in this sort of use in ad optimization, it is still very niche, and hence maiden voyage. Addressing sample sizes, we go to about 30 consumers to test one ad. And remember, in medical and in academic research, they just do 20 to 24 brains. But we have seen in consumer neuroscience, data stabilizes at about 30 brains. Now you'll say, is that truly quantitative? Take a look at these numbers. So you'll see those 32 sensors in the previous page. They all measured, each of them measures data at the rate of 500 times a second. So if you do some quick math, you'll see even for a small ad of 15 seconds, the data that's collected is in the millions. And this is what helps us become reproducible as well as test-retest compliant. And we're very, very rooted in our methods in science. So sure, we measure brain waves. And what you see on the left-hand side is a composite of the brain wave, which is broken up into different waves and frequencies, which is in the middle. And then it's converted into decision-making metrics of the consumer. So what is it that we measure from the brain of the consumer? Are they paying attention to what they are seeing? Do they like what they are seeing? That's emotional motivation. And the last thing is memory activation, and this is important because remember, it's an ad, and there's a brand, there's a product, there are USPs. Are they helping reinforce the memory structures or building new ones? So memory activation is important. And on the right-hand side, you'll see action intent. As a result of the ad, will the consumer take any decision or change behavior for the ad?
Case study we're going to quickly talk about is for an ad that Sunila's team tested for us. This is for Fire TV. It's a simple product. You plug it into your TV and it makes it smart. Now, most TVs today being sold are smart already, so you wonder why does this product exist, and that's because 75% of TVs installed base in urban India are still non-smart. For the longest time, our proposition was simple, make your TV smart, but then in the last 2-3 years, there's just so much clutter around the smart narrative that we try to take a different approach this time and say, it makes your TV feel brand new, and the campaign idea was Naya TV. Now, we had launched the campaign already. It was a digital campaign, but we got some feelers that, hey, like maybe we have fallen short on execution somewhere. So and that's why the test, and we'll see the original ad first, and as we look at the results after.
Amazon Fire TV Stick, ढेर सारे apps, fast streaming और Alexa remote. Fire, fire.
So how did the ad do? Remember, we used EEG with eye tracking. So you'll see here on the left-hand side, this is our quintile database. This was an ad where on action intent, are consumers likely to take a decision for the brand? We didn't see much potential. It was sitting at the bottom of the quintile database. I mentioned memory. Memory, we were testing this amongst non-users of the product. So low memory means that they didn't find the ad very relevant. So that was also sitting at the bottom of the quintile database. But neuroscience doesn't stop there. This is a trace of the brain wave across the 20 seconds of the ad. And you'll see from the first segment of the family waiting for the delivery, there's suspense, and there's anticipation, and it's also familiar, so it's done well. The next set, where the product is unboxed and there's a product demo, that is a problem area, and you will see that. And when the tagline appears, a fire, hey, a fire, it goes back to doing well. And there's a pullback at the end because consumers have heard the tagline and they've assumed it's the end of the ad, but then the brand card appears, so there's a bit of confusion and hence the pullback. So we can see here the two problem areas. And just delving into this, you'll see here in both the cases that memory is poor when the brand or when the product demo happens. One thing to talk about is the one on top. You'll see here that there is low memory of 3.6 when the product demo happens. In addition, there's also high attention. This is a clear marker in the brain for confusion. For all human brains, whenever there's high attention with low memory, it means you're trying to figure out what's happening. So just look at this clip and see what's happening.
Amazon Fire TV stick, ढेर सारे apps, fast streaming और Alexa remote.
So if you look at it, you'll see that the Amazon apps are there. There are apps listed in the bottom. There's programs also listed. In addition, your voiceover is telling you there's Alexa remote, fast streaming. This is all too confusing for the brain. Sorry about that. Okay, so it comes from neuroscience where we know when the brain is met with a lot, there's confusion, and that's exactly what's happening. So broadly, what are the areas of optimization? We said make your intro shorter. You can simplify the middle portion, which is a problem, and you can also have better integration of the final brand card. And they did make the changes. Here's the revised ad.
Fire TV.
Amazon Fire TV stick, ढेर सारे apps, Alexa remote और TV बना नया. Fire है ये, fire.
So you can see for yourself there were definitely some changes. I know you all have spotted it. How did the ad do? On action intent, you'll see it goes up a notch. And secondly, on memory, it goes up dramatically. It goes into the top 40 percentile, which is great actually in neuroscience. That's why it's colored in green. And then how does the ad do? The first segment, in fact, becomes stronger. It's shorter, but it is a bit more efficient than before. The second one, you remember the product unboxing? While they zoomed in a bit into it, it still remains an area of concern because not much was being able to do about it. But when we come to the product demo, remember there was confusion earlier. It's done significantly better because it's much smoother, slower. And on the last one as well, there is an uplift in memory. So if we just cover those two areas, you can see here, memory dramatically improves. There's no more confusion in the product demo. And at the bottom, you get very strong memory during the branding sequence, which is important. So putting it all together, don't waste what is precious. You can optimize. You can make small changes for big impact. There are other areas as well. You can see the investments, not much was required from the Amazon brand team. And then there are other applications of neuroscience as well. So it's a great tool to have. Sumit?
I just want to sum up by saying, while this was a polarizing example of a really bad ad that started doing better, we have seen examples of good ads also getting really better. And neuroscience, in my experience, is honestly not for everyone because I understand the reality at the brand side. You have a lot of normative database, old ads to go through, which you benchmark against. But really, if your focus is on obsessing about how do you make your creatives and inputs work a lot harder, make your ad move 1 point to the right, then these are great technologies and tools to work with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. There's a two-part question. First being, would the brain waves depend on some macro factors also, like let's say the day of the time of the day or the life stage of the respondent?
So first of all, every ad that we test is tested in the target group, like all market research. Time of day, etc. It can indeed, actually that's a great question. So we do neurofield work during the day. In fact, we pause neurofield work and stop it when the sun sets. Because our brain actually automatically starts shutting down. So let's say that we cunningly do field work after 6 p.m. At the back end, the signal processing can determine that there are certain alpha waves that are predominant, etc. And in fact, that whole interview or survey or that session gets cancelled. So there are certain times of days. The other aspect is that if you genuinely have a problem with your brain, the brain waves for your particular subject or that one session, we can detect that. And that's, then we do extra sample and we don't consider that into the session. But otherwise, context question, the response to that is, you are only always testing an ad with your consumer group, so you know that that person has that context. I hope that helps.
Since consumers are wearing so many probes like on their head and etc., do you think the brain waves captured are natural?
That's a good question as well. So one is because we have neuroscientists with us. They're actually PhD plus, neuroscientists. We are able to determine if a person feels very uncomfortable. I have about 10 years of practice, experience in the practice. And you will see that sometimes respondents don't settle down. They get anxious about it. It's very rare in India. Frankly, Indian consumers are totally bindas. They're like, yeah, sure, put this on, and we want to see what's happening. But sometimes there are, so the people who are doing the field work, they're also trained to handle human subjects. They calm them down, etc. In the off chance that the respondent really doesn't calm down, then, like I said, we ignore that particular session because we know the waves that influence stress, etc. One interesting piece that I just want to share with you is that in India, generally you don't see this happen very often, but one of the cultures where people show much more anxiety is incidentally the Japanese, and that's simply because there's so much stress there on getting it right, being on time, etc. So we see slightly more incidences there than in other countries, but otherwise we're able to pick it out.
One more question, which is,
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.